Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Super Goku Black figure, which I know so many of you are so very excited about. It's a very popular character, and it's a figure that basically everybody was excited for if they collected this line, and I'm happy to tell you I'm reviewing it. No, I'm kidding. I'm happy to tell you that it's mostly really good. There's a whole lot of good stuff going on here. There are a couple things that aren't so great, a couple things that stand out as being pretty problematic. But I'm gonna go ahead and just tell you right now, I think most of you are gonna be pretty pleased with this, but we still have a bunch to talk about, so let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. And this guy stands just about, let's say, 5 3/4 inches. That's right about to the top of this part of his head, which I think is a fair measurement. We don't want to measure that hair spike, and that's gonna make him about, let's say, 14.5 centimeters, right about there. So it's going to be about 15 if you do count the hair. I'm guessing that's what it says on the product listing, but that's okay. And this guy is pretty overall aesthetically accurate. I think it's fine. There's not a ton of shading. There is a little bit on the gray. It's not particularly effective. It's just right in the middle there, which doesn't really make any sense. But it does lend itself to making the figure look a little bit more dynamic. If there's shading on this darker gray, which is almost black, then I can't see it. I can't find it. It just looks like shadows. But that's about it. There's a little shading there, and then there is shading in one other place, and unfortunately, it's not a good thing. And that's down here at the boots. These boots right here, the part on his legs, are shaded a little bit, whereas the feet are not. And if you'll notice, hopefully it's showing up on camera and that the lights aren't washing everything out, this part's darker than this part, and it looks really weird. It almost looks like he's got leg warmers and then socks on. Not great. It's not a total deal breaker, of course, it's just a little bit of a shading issue, but it definitely does detract from the figure. It's pretty obvious. All the other issues are pretty minor, so it's kind of a bummer that that's kind of obvious. So that's okay, I guess. I mean, overall, it's okay. That's definitely not. Anyway, we have kind of a lot of accessories, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and talk about those. We have two different heads. We have the black-haired head, of course, and then we do have the rose-haired head. And the black-haired head looks awesome. It's really good. It does come with two different faces. We have the smirking kind of neutral face, and then we have the one where he's kind of angry and looking off to the side a little bit. I think these faces are just fantastic. And then for the rose head looks really good. I think they nailed the pink overall. The shading could be a little more smooth. You can see on that one spike on the right, his left, our right, it doesn't have any shading. It's just a line from pink to darker pink, and that's kind of a bummer. But otherwise, I like the finish. I like the color. It does have shading. And then these faces are also awesome. We have a neutral kind of angry face, and then we have a yelling face, which just, they look great. So I absolutely love that. We have a bunch of hands. We have two fist hands, and then we have one pointing finger hand, one jutsu hand, one palm hand, two martial arts kind of hands, and then two gripping hands or kamehameha hands, which that's a bunch of hands, and they did paint the rings on there. They're sculpted too. It's very nicely done. We do have his kamehameha, which is a nice dark purple, very well executed. The pegs are a little stiff. It's kind of hard to get them in the holes, but if you wiggle them a little bit, they'll go right in. That's what she said. It looks really good though. Very saturated dark purple with a little bit of black shading on there. Better than the regular Kamehameha. It looks so nice. And then even better than that is we have the God Slicer effect part, which is just so well done. It's got like this pearly, purpley pink on top of the clear white, or translucent white anyway, and it's just, oh my goodness, the sculpt is clean and it's sharp, and then the metallic and translucent qualities just make it look so spiffy. It's a very spiffy accessory. Very pleased with that. So if that's not enough awesomeness, let's go ahead and talk about the articulation, because that's mostly good. The head is on what we would expect. There's a ball hinge and a ball peg, and it doesn't work as well as it should, not even a little bit, and that's a bummer. I'll go ahead and pop the face off so I can show you that, because that's what we do here. Look at how much clearance there is. Almost none. You can't really move the head at all. And having that little tiny ball hinge in there on top of this big fat neck, you can see there's no room for that ball hinge to move. Without the face, you can move it a little bit, but you can't move it in any way other than a rotation with the face on. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and you'll see that that is a total problem. You need a whole lot more clearance, or at least just a double ball peg if you want this head to be effective. As it is, you can't really lean it at all. You're going to get your rotation, and then you can lean it forward and back that much. It's very, very limited, and that's just not a good design choice, not at all. Luckily, the neck is on a ball peg, so it'll move around a little bit and help you to pose the head, which is good. But having that little tiny ball hinge, it just totally kills the range for the top part of the neck, and that's a bummer. For the shoulders, there's some good and bad. We do have a butterfly joint, which will help in some posing. You can get the arm across pretty well. But this is the problem, as you can see right here. We have this gray sleeve out here, and then black here again. That's terrible looking. That's no good at all. In fact, I think they really need to just lose this sleeve design altogether. They've done much better even on the Figurized kits, where the sleeve is actually part of the sculpt, and so it rotates around and you don't end up with these weird gaps. And you definitely should have some gray in there to hide that, because the sleeve just can't hide it. Functionally, it's fine. It works just fine. You can raise the arms up pretty well. Not as high as I would like, but it's okay. And then, of course, this will move around. So you have your ball peg on top of that butterfly joint, which works okay. And then you have your ball hinge for the shoulder. So it's functionally okay, but these sleeve cuffs are just kind of old tech at this point, old engineering, and they probably need to come up with a better design. They just don't hide. Even in like more of a neutral pose, these don't have as much of an effective covering as would be desirable. There's a lot of gapping. I mean, it's not terrible, don't get me wrong. It's just not as good as it could be, and they could easily do better at this point. We've seen it. So we have a bicep swivel, which is standard, works fine. Double jointed elbow, no problems there. The wrist is on a ball hinge. That's pretty effective. No issues there. Diaphragm joint, pretty much the same as we've seen on the recent Goku figures. So there is an extension in there, which is really just a hinge. So you can lean them over a little bit better. Still fairly limited. It's not bad. It's okay. You do get a nice rotation and leaning side to side, so you're not going to have too much trouble posing this guy. You can lean back pretty far, squash that back down. You still get decent posability, so I'm okay with that. The belt is, of course, floating, and it's nice and snug, so it's really just going to move around with the body and not create any gaps. It helps nicely hiding this articulation while still looking good. For the bottom part of his shirt, which is kind of like a skirt, it's just soft plastic with splits down the sides, which you would think would be pretty limiting going forward, but you can still get your kicks going pretty much no problem at all. Look at that. That's really nice. I love that. I love it. And here's the other thing. The hips actually don't have any loose spots on mine so far. I guess it's possible they could end up loose. You can get them out pretty far to the side as well. And how these hips work, I mean, we've seen them before, but in case you don't know or haven't seen the reviews, this part right here is kind of just a cap. This inside piece that's right next to the middle ball peg that the hips connect to, that gives you the swivel this way. And then you have a hinge going out to the side. You still see all these internal mechanics, and that's not what it should be. This sculpting part right here should just tuck in. It should be continued like a giant half circle of sculpted part that just tucks in Armor Trunks or the newer Vegeta, and it wasn't great for them. On this guy, it's a little better. I think that's definitely enough, and I'm okay with that. The paint down here is pretty nice, by the way, for the sole of the boot. And then the toe hinge is your standard basic toe hinge, which is only okay, good enough, not special. So perfect. The neck definitely could be worked on too, but luckily the neck peg down here is saved. Really aesthetically pleasing overall, very screen accurate, and mostly very functional in terms of articulation. Talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that.